Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to the podcast, A Better World with Adrian. Thank you so much for pressing play and for being here. I'm really excited to bring forward today's transmission, a bit about temple history and this idea of war on our planet, which really is the war within you, within me, within all of us, and collective consciousness. So it is a very, you're going to be challenged with some questions to reflect on in your path right now for the inner landscape that you have with yourself and the creator that no one sees, which is a hallmark of the intimacy of this work we do together inside New Earth Elite. My fleet of souls, the training room to get you firing on all cylinders as the Jedi high net worth maverick you are. So, a couple things before I dive into this episode. If you want to go deeper into this work with me, I have one-on-one consults available right now. These are 25-minute high voltage sessions. The idea is you come in with like one or two major questions and you leave with a complete trajectory shift. This is also a perfect place where you can just ask me literally anything and get guidance, get oracle messages. And of course, if you are interested in working with me long term and you've never worked with me before, this is a perfect stepping stone into a long-term space. The other way you can work with me is through one-on-one Lux mentorship. So this is high proximity training room with me one-on-one. If you are interested in either of these options, the link is in the show notes or wherever you are listening to this podcast. You can also always go to my website, adrianschroeder.com, to get more information, to apply, and to book a consult. So you have everything you need if you want to do that with me. Okay, temple history, the war within you. I felt really called to create this episode because one of the things that I bring forward to this work and this space is my Mary Magdalene coding. And so if you've been around me for a while, you probably know I'm obsessed with red roses. I'm obsessed with Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, because I come from that divine line. I come from that codex of true holders and keepers of the feminine frequency, which is an ancient way and embodiment that is here to reharmonize our planet, right? So, with the ancient temples, for thousands of years, the ancient temples, basically what's happening right now, I'm recording this the middle of 2026. We are in like the midwife process between, we're like in the in-between, like bloody process between a dark age and the new golden age being ushered in, right? That's why AI is coming and advancing. That's why there's accelerated like spiritual awakenings. That's why all of this stuff. And depending on your level of consciousness, people are perceiving things as like the world is a dumpster fire, or you're perceiving things as like, wow, there's limitless potential available literally right now. More on that in the episode called The White Void of Pure Potential. So, for thousands and thousands of years, this is the way that the priestesses worked, and this is the way that society worked and culture worked. And one of the things about New Earth and a Better World is a lot of the things that we are reharmonizing on the planet. I say reharmonizing. Re means do again. We used to do this. We knew what to do, Just like back at like all of us have ancestry that goes back to tribes. The tribes knew what to do. They knew sacred geometry, they knew the architecture, they knew the feminine. Okay, this is the feminine architecture. She's raising families. She's doing this. She's in her vulnerable essence. And the men are out here hunting. They're out here protecting and providing, right? And so what we've done is really inverted a lot of the natural order of things. And so honestly, a big part of being a maverick is just doing the ancient codes. And so for thousands of years, the priestesses, which, not everybody is here to be a priestess. I'm a priestess. I'm an oracle, I'm white star, I'm shaman, like whatever word you want to use, but I come from a priestess line. And so, if you think about temples all over the world, like what is a temple? I used to go when I lived in Chicago, I taught on the North Shore, which was like one of the wealthier zip codes around there. And I did like in-home private sessions, first on piano, and then I did do some breath work there when I was starting to get into that at the end of my time. However, I would go to the Baha'i temple at least once a week, and it was this massive, massive, beautiful structure. There's only one on every continent. There's only seven in the world. And for whatever reason, I was positioned by the one in North America. And so I would go up there and I would just sit, and they had these beautiful gardens. And I'm like transporting myself there right now as I record this podcast. Just the most beautiful gardens and fountains and intricate like it was this dome. Honestly, you don't see buildings like this in the US. You don't see them in North America because let's be real, we are baby countries. Over here, the US is a baby. Like when everybody was saying like, "Oh, the US is 250 years old." I'm like, "Why is that a flex?" Like I love the US because of the amount of opportunity and like entrepreneurship and like the American dream of like ambition. They don't have that in Europe, not the same. However, in terms of like, it would be like if a startup went to something like SpaceX or Amazon and was like flexing, like, hey, look at our cash flow. And then Amazon's like, sit down, kid. Sit down, kid. You've never been through a recession and you've never been through a revenue dip. Sit down. I just kept thinking that. And so it's just fascinating and it's hilarious. And this idea of being in a temple is just like this most gorgeous building. And what is a temple? A temple is a holy space where you come to connect with something bigger than yourself, right? It's a structure, it's a building, it's all very elaborately carved, and it has this sole purpose of it's this idea of you're coming to pray, to worship, to connect, to gather with other people who are connecting to whatever the greater force is that you think we're communicating with and that runs this. Like I truly don't believe anybody can like be in nature and not believe in something bigger. Honestly, every single successful person I know has a relationship with the creator. Every single successful person I know, and it doesn't matter if they are successful from root level of like fear and lack or a root level of like unconditional love and bliss and true fusion with the creator, God source, the universe, whatever. But like if you are channeling great things, you're constantly in relationship with the unseen because you're bringing things into fruition that have never existed yet. So it doesn't matter if you consider yourself religious. I don't consider myself religious at all. I am not religious at all. I am extremely spiritual. And I have a daily relationship with the creator. And the point of this work is like, if you feel closer to me, I have failed. If you feel closer to the creator, that's the bare fucking minimum. Okay. And so these structures, these buildings, these temples, historically have always been places where people come to connect to something greater than themselves. What not a lot of people realize is that there were these temples for thousands and thousands of years with the priestesses, okay? And a priestess was just a woman who belonged to herself. It was kind of like, I don't know why this coming through, but kind of like a nun. However, not so like oppressed. Like the priestesses, like we're very extremely connected to our bodies, extremely connected to our sexual power. And it's a relationship with the unseen, like from a very like medicine woman, shamanic, like angelic, oracle coding, healer archetype, right? And so there's something that would happen that's very, very normal. And it is that when men went to war, and this is for thousands and thousands of years, because they knew how energy works, right? And so if men went to war, then before they were ever allowed to come back to their village, before they were ever allowed to go back to their wives and their families, and when I'm speaking about this, like I'm talking about frequency beyond gender. I'm talking about energy, okay? Obviously, we all have masculine and feminine energetics within us. So, but the men, before they could go back to their village, like everybody knew, like if they come right back to the village, they're gonna bring war with them. This is what I mean by our first language is energy. They're like, they need to go to the temples and be purified. They need to go to the temples and be healed. They need to go to the temples and be initiated with the priestesses before they can come back to the to the village. Otherwise, they're going to bring this war into the village. They're going to bring this war into their households, into their marriages, into the hearts and the minds and the spirits and the souls of their children. Okay. And so men would go to these temples, and it was very, what's happened now is that a lot of these spaces of like temple spaces, which I would say, they over time got transitioned to be very, very, very verbal and very based in the mind, which as you and I know, and as I have teach and taught and everything I do in my shamanic breathwork journeys with my clients, like nothing, we only access literally 5% of our power and potential and free will, honestly, through our mind. The rest is through the subconscious, the rest is through the body, the rest is through the nervous system and experiential cellular DNA level alchemy, right? And so in this recent dark age, we've had this idea of, okay, we've just got to go to this special space and just like talk and say a bunch of words and like everything will be fixed. And it's like, as someone who I am extremely tapped in, I'm an oracle. I like if I when I walk into, for example, like the Louvre in Paris or even like the Magdalene churches that I just have gone to all around Europe, I walk in and I hear people's prayers from like hundreds and thousands of years. People have gone in there and it's basically like people just like word vomiting their deepest, darkest shit without a space to actually transmute the energy, right? And so it hasn't always been that way because when the men would go to these temples to be initiated by the priestesses, they were doing energy work with them. They were doing energy work with them to literally delete the war frequencies out of their body, out of their being, out of their vessel, so that they would go back to their villages as kings, illuminated and initiated into their Christ consciousness, into their Yeshua consciousness, into their king energy, into their highest potency as channels of love, right? Because they had just come from being channels of war. Okay. And so, what I really want to share in this episode, I specialize in working with men. I specialize in working with men. I never in a million years thought that I would do that. I always worked with men and women. And then it just became abundantly clear to me as I got deeper into my priestess coding, as I went deeper into my oracle. First of all, the creator kept sending me men for clients, which has, become New Earth Elite. And then the more I got into the history of the temples, it's like, duh, Adrian, the men are coming to you to be initiated. The men are coming to you for energy work. They're coming to you to cleanse the wars from within themselves. Because here's the thing, every single person on this globe, not just men, however, it's more prevalent in men because there is so much shame about men and their emotions still. Don't be a pussy is still a thing. And I don't care if you are the most peaceful, gentle soul on this planet. I guarantee you have violent ancestors. I guarantee there are horrible traumas and violences that have happened to you or your bloodline that you have been told that you should just suck it up, just push it down. And here's the thing, most trauma, big T trauma, where it's like so obvious, is actually easier to heal than the subtle things because people tell you it's not a big deal. People tell you, oh, and what I've discovered in working with hundreds of men is that you are like you might not feel this right out, but in general, men are shamed still for vulnerability, and they're shamed for things that they want to transmute because, oh, this is a man's world. Like it's easy to be a man, it's hard to be a woman. Like women, it's very normal to talk about like, oh, healing and my emotions and blah blah blah, but men like showing any sign of weakness like that is still, it doesn't matter if in your brain you know like, oh, it's okay to be vulnerable. It burned into your DNA is ancestry and past lives and bloodlines of men who shoved it down for centuries and it's baked into your DNA. That is a quiet war you have living within yourself that you have never purified in a temple, that you have never done energy work in a temple to transmute. You can talk about it all day long. You can do talk therapy. That is never going to move the needle for you. And so when we think about this idea of war on our planet, we want to end war, right? Each of us have got to look at what is the war that I'm allowing to live within me. Here are some of the common wars. A war is discord, it's fighting. Do you have inner turmoil in your life? Where do you know something and you don't act on that knowing? That's a war living within you every single day that you have got to purify in the temple. What's the temple? New Earth Elite, this work. Like knowing things and pretending you don't know. Any kind of dis-ease, any kind of health challenge is coming from a war within you. Dis-ease means that energy is not flowing, okay? Anytime you stuff down your emotions, anytime you spiritually bypass, okay? I've worked with so many veterans. I never thought I would work with veterans. Creator sent them my way. So many men having been through real fucking violence and having no temple space that can actually help them heal. And men holding space for other men is powerful. There's nothing like the sacred geometry that happens when a woman holds space for a man to process and alchemize and be initiated where there's no romantic energy. For every man out there listening, if you are dating someone, there's a limit to what you would allow them to see, especially at the beginning. You need a space to fall into that doesn't have that. And so this is what the temple spaces did for these men. And so what I see in the collective and what I see in you, the leader, the warrior, you're out here building companies. You're out here creating generational wealth for your bloodline. You're out here following your soul's mission. You have never done the deep cellular work to heal the war within you because you've never been to the temple. And so you're bringing that war within you to every relationship in your life, to every P&L in your business, to every conversation you have with your dad, dead or alive. It is profoundly important to understand this temple history and understand that the temples now are extremely based in the mind and they're powerful. Like even Kabbalah, for example, like I study Kabbalah. I've been in really powerful rooms studying Kabbalah for the past year and a half specifically. There's energy in the room for sure. There is insane shifts in consciousness, absolutely. Is there the cellular alchemy of a temple? No. Does it still stay in the 5% of the brain? Yes. This is the temple history, the ancient temple history you've got to understand. And you've got to understand that the wars we're witnessing on our planet, which there's always been wars, um, it is a reflection of the wars within each of us as a collective. And so you've got to be the person who purifies yourself from that war within you. It doesn't happen overnight and it doesn't happen through the mind. Like, so if you're listening to this and you were considering like when I shared at the beginning, like one-on-one mentorship or a consult, like the consult, we can talk about what's the correct space for you to go deep in the cellular work like this with me. However, 25 minutes looking at your astrology is not gonna do this. It's powerful, it's potent, it's what most people will never access in their lifetime. It'll 10x you, and it will never heal the war within yourself. You will always be at war within yourself. And there's probably a war that you have within you that's not even your war. Or maybe it's that thing that happened to you when you were a little kid that you never told anybody about, that you've been carrying deep shame about, that you dissociate from. It's time to cleanse yourself. It's time to heal yourself. It's time to really just go back to this ancient coding of like, you can't bring that war home to your family. You can't bring that war home to your kids, to your wife, to your partner, to you can't bring it home to your house. You can't bring it home to your soul. But here's the thing, like you are living with that each day that goes by that you don't actively transmute that. And you could have been doing the work for, so I literally just last night did a breathwork journey myself. I was sobbing, crying. I had a major release. And I'm someone which I'm a relentless motherfucker. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I go hard in the paint, especially with that work because I know how much it works. And I still have things to transmute because so much is being kicked up in the collective right now and in our bodies and in our nervous systems. I moved energy from honestly something that happened to me when I was in the womb that also happened with my mom and her mom and her mom. So it wasn't even mine. It was an ancestral patterning that my soul had was chosen to transmute. And so I feel really passionate about this topic. Okay, 111 as I say that. But like you've got to understand that this is the level of ancient coding and alchemy that we do in this work. It's and a new earth and a better world is not going to be built through a bunch of people talking about shit and never moving the energy and never actually clearing that war. Because what I see is People with wars within themselves, never going to the temples, never being initiated and purified and cleansed and cleared, and bringing that energy into the intimacy of their daily lives. And then we wonder why we don't have a world we're proud of. No, it starts within you. And so rewiring this of like, no, you go to the temple first. You don't need to throw another 50K, 100K at a business coach that you think is going to help you 10x your company. You don't need to invest in more marketing, like blah, blah, blah. You've got to go to the temple and permanently clear the war you've been living within yourself quietly for decades. The temple where actual energetic alchemy happens, the training room. This is why I created New Earth Elite. It is the temple. It is the temple training room for you. Healing knowledge and skill, real alchemy. So that is this transmission. I mean, a very powerful journal prompt at the very least for you from this is where am I living a war within me? What war have I been living quietly that no one knows about? What have I been carrying that I think isn't a big deal, that I've shoved down, and maybe you don't know? And maybe you feel this so deeply and it scares the shit out of you. Maybe you just book a consult with me and we can talk about it. Like 25 minutes with me where you go deeper than you've gone any other time in your whole life that changes the entire trajectory of your life is worth it times a million. So that's today's episode. I hope that you learned something about the history of temples, priestesses, healers, oracles, the sacred geometry between men and women, and what we're being called to rebirth here for a better world, and really how to end war and end the war that's been living within you for so long. So if you want to go deeper into this work, if you are a man on a mission and you're like, yes, I'm ready to be initiated. I'm ready to be in the training room. I'm ready to just cleanse the war, the quiet war out of me so I no longer bring it to anyone, including yourself, first and foremost yourself, because you know what else is a temple? You, literally your vessel, your body. So if you are interested in this and you feel the call and you know you want to work with me, apply for one-on-one Lux mentorship or book a one-on-one consult. The link is in the show notes. I love you so much. I'm grateful to serve you and go out there, be the change, be the light, be the real you, make a stranger smile, be the reason someone believes in life again. And I will see you next time on A Better World with Adrian.